Very good morning to you all, afternoon to some, and evening to the others. Thank you for the invitation, for the opportunity to speak here. I will briefly outline what we are doing as a terminal operator under the circumstances and in scope of COVID as well, for linking the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. Well, from a port operator perspective, especially for Ambarle, which some of you may know is ideally located within the Marmara Sea, just outside the entrance of the Bosphorus. So this geographically puts us in a position that where we are the natural linking, one of the natural linking points, let's say, of Black Sea to the Mediterranean, and some vessel types in excess of 300 meters, the latest I know, are not able to pass the Bosphorus with their cargo. So this naturally makes Ambarle and or Marmara Sea, let's say, as a natural transshipment hub for connecting Black Sea to Mediterranean. Obviously, the pandemic had its effects, but as Arham rightly pointed out, our exposure to COVID has been very limited. For ports and terminals at our side, we have done segregation and implemented all the preventative measures that possibly we can to ensure the sustainability of operations, the availability of gangs, the availability of berths and everything. And for Ambarle and for Marport, this has been successfully done so far. And today, active cases wise, we see a trend of decrease. So that is a positive note. But to sustain our growth and to keep connecting the Black Sea and to Mediterranean, what we are doing is we are expanding the ports at Marport. And I'm also informed that most other terminals in Ambarle have these plans as well. So in effect, the adding value to this cargo for our perspective is transit times, where Marport is located and where Ambarle is located. We are naturally the preferred first call, but if and only if you can provide the natural water left, as we call the draft, to the vessels, because out of the Dardanelles, the vessels are coming into Marmara quite full. And when these vessels are full, the deadweight tons, the draft requirements of these vessels are very high. So to enable a quick transshipment, so basically you don't want to waste time sailing around, and you want to berth as quickly as you can, as you want to discharge and load as quickly as you can. And this for us, I think, is the critical added value that we do in Ambarle, and especially in Marport, is that we provide a number of gangs in excess of 4 to the large vessels. We are calling them now Superpost Panamax, mother vessels. We are talking about vessels of 18.5, 19,000 TEU plus, and to sustain these, what we need, you need the berth, you need the cranes, and you need the expertise. And we have done this, and we will continue to do this. We are expanding on this actually. So we are expanding our berth, and we are now investing in new equipment at Marport to ensure that these vessels are discharged as quickly as they can be, and then they're loaded as quickly as they can be, obviously, which in effect, I think gives approximately 2 to 3 days advantage in transit times of receiving the cargo in the Black Sea. This is the added value that Ambarle and Marmara provides to the receivers and consignees in the Black Sea. I'm not going to say exactly Mediterranean, because out of the N2 and Black Sea, it could be destined to anywhere, but accessing and facilitating Black Sea is what we have been doing and what we'll continue to do. In scope of COVID and remote working, I see some questions about remote working coming in. We have implemented a number of remote working conditions and remote working applications, but I think the other operators will also comment on this. But at this moment in time in Turkey, whereas there are a number of customs applications that are done, a fully remotely operated terminal, I do not foresee happening very quickly. To a certain extent, yes, some facilities, some products within the terminal can be done remotely, but going remote and working remotely for the entire terminal scope. For us, I do not see this happening. Yes, marketing and sales, we are at 100% remote working, unless there are some physical signatures. The digital signatures and digital approval process from customs to non-government organizations is still a bit fluid, still a bit gray. But once those are done, we will be able to do more remote working. But from the operations perspective, there are operators here, I'm sure as well, that are doing their crane operations remotely. At Marport, this isn't something that we have done. But again, this is not off the table. We have started OCRs coming in. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes, we can help.
Okay. Yeah, that is the two answer from our perspective, the remote working aspect. It is doable to a certain extent in Turkey at this moment in time. Fully, again, as Erhan rightly said, this will push the digitalization to advance very much more quickly. We see this happening documentation-wise, delivery orders from the shipping lines perspective. These are all being digitized to those that who prefer to do so. But yeah, that is where we are. These are the points that I would like to have covered. To finalize for Marport, we are continuing to invest in the terminal's capacity and infrastructure to ensure that connecting Black Sea to Mediterranean and to other destinations is sustained very much and done in Ambarle. And I think to close on a final note, that these investments we have done so far in Ambarle have provided that the transshipments or the Black Sea cargo to and from Turkey is approximately in total 2.5 million TEUs, and of which 2 million of this is done in Marmara and 1 million of this is in Ambarle. So Ambarle and West Marmara is playing a critical role in connecting Black Sea and Mediterranean regions, and this is done very much simply from the port operator's perspective by providing capacity at the berths at the gangs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alp. You make some very interesting points. I know you got to leave shortly, but if I could ask you a couple of questions. You touched upon the push for automation, which you are continuing with. You touched upon points of the demand from the shipping lines about transit times, efficiency, productivity, etc. My two questions are, to what extent do you think that there is the technology there to push through greater productivity, efficiency levels? Is that going to be a step change, or do you see linear increases in productivity going forward?
To answer that, for us at Marport, this could be different for each terminal, obviously, but
Sure.
For us, we have been using N4, so Navis, and a number of their optimization modules for a number of years now. From the optimization point, we have seen very, very small incremental increases in productivity, truck turnaround times, because we have done all of this. We have installed all of these optimizations, and we have exercised, and our operators and our human capital is very much used to using these systems in place. So to increase this optimization to productivity, what we need is the crane infrastructure. IT, automation, yes, it could improve, but again, in very small increments, because we have done this. We are at the level where we need to be stocked of this. But now, newer gantries, faster gantries will see a higher incremental change in gross per hours or moves per vessel. So to increase that productivity, we would be looking at equipment infrastructure rather than IT infrastructure.
Thank you very much, Alp. My second question to you, which is really what Durhan is also asking about. You mentioned about 2 million TEUs, 2.5 million TEUs going to the Black Sea. How has COVID impacted that market? If you know whether that market has recovered as a consequence of the decline, or do you think that market is still much behind and still trying to recover?
No, I mean, we have suffered. Turkey has suffered in terms of transshipment. So from the previous year, so pre-COVID times, we were doing about 3 million in total. So we closed 2020 with 2.5 million. So that means Turkey has lost approximately 500,000 TEUs of transshipment to other destinations. There's two principal issues. COVID is one of these, yes. Europe closing their markets. That means the Black Sea exports not being destined to the European markets anymore has affected these volumes. But we are also aware that the customs applications in Turkey, in place in Turkey, have forced some of the shipping lines to transship elsewhere rather than Turkey. So because of the loss in time in their paperwork. So during discharge and during loading, during transit operations, some lines are trying to do on-the-fly moves, and the customs applications in place is currently preventing, especially for some specific destinations. So if you're, for example, transshipping from South America, which is a red zone for Turkish customs, let's say, there will be paperwork, there will be inspections to do, then which is a loss of time for the shipping lines, so they transit elsewhere. So we know for a fact that we have lost 100,000 TEU just for Marport from that application. So yeah, Turkey has suffered. Recovery-wise, it's too early to say, but yes, markets are open. I cannot comment in early February at how much we have recovered, but we do expect a steep recovery by August. By the end of the third quarter, we expect to have received everything back as the vaccines have been rolling up in the European markets.